Well, look here. Guess who's number one in the Nielsen ratings again?
Play 97.7.
We got Matt on. Bring him in. We got Matt.
Oh, there he is.
Folks, we've been talking about Matt King all the way from North Carolina, one of my favorite musicians of all time. Then he's got his own coffee. How are you today, bro?
Doing good. Just getting cranked up. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, man, we're sitting here just talking. The World Health Organization said the worst foods for your health, according to the experts, is about everything that I eat, man. Do you eat bacon?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to cook a pound for myself. I'm here in the mountains this morning.
Don't eat it. They say it's bad for you. I don't know.
Oh, no, I believe in bacon with your ice cream, bacon with your birthday cake, and bacon with your eggs.
There you go.
I've actually had cake with bacon in it. No kidding. No kidding.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
with you, man. So, how's the world been treating you, man? You got a brand, you got your coffee thing going, your music going, and tell us what's happening. I hadn't talked to you in a while.
Oh, man, it's been a minute. I thought I was going to be back in Nashville today to talk to you guys, and I'm still here in North Carolina. I'm up here at Bear Lake in Jackson County, up basically near Cullowhee.
Oh, it's beautiful there, man.
And Tuckasegee. I'm in Tuckasegee proper.
Right.
And just we're putting the coffee roastery in, and so just staffing up and getting the folks lined up this week, and then I'm going to head back home for about 6 days and turn around and come right back. So right now I'm in coffee land.
There you go. Well, now you just opened. That's one of the things I was going to talk to you about. You just opened a brand new shop up in. I guess you're in Silva.
Yeah, we're partnering up with the farmhouse. This is where we'll be doing a lot of our roasting. We do have a roasting facility out of Tennessee. Already has, their clientele and everything. So we're pretty excited I'm excited to actually have a group of people to work with. As an artist, you're 90% of the time you're a one-man band, and I've been on the road a long time without a band. So this is awesome to have a group of people to work with.
Now, this is the other Steve. I got a question
I'm sorry.
for
We
you.
got
There are two
Steve Thompson
Steves
in
here.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got this coffee thing going on. These roasters, these bean roasters that you need to install. So you can kind of do this on a big scale. How big are these things? How big of a facility do you need to roast coffee beans?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I started with an industrial heat gun in my wife's colander.
Wow.
Southern. I mean, that's Southern technology there, man. I'm with you.
Yes, sir. And it works.
Yeah.
Well, there's different sizes. The one I'm putting over here in North Carolina is about 450 pounds. It's not a monster, and it does about 3 kilos, which is about, 5-6 pounds at a time. So you can do about 20-25 pounds an hour. So it's what's considered in the coffee world a small batch roaster. Mm-hmm. But we're doing we're going to do some we're roasting for a lot of different folks, actually, which is kind of unexpected.
Right.
And then my coffee that I've been making for people under whatever King Coffee is going to be called Blue Ridge Bootleg Brew, and we're actually going to roll out this fall a barrel aged coffee. Well, it's aged in whiskey and wine barrels.
That's fantastic.
Now, they ain't nothing like drinking coffee and getting a buzz. See, there you go. You made it. See, I'm a Baptist and I can't drink, but I can drink that coffee because it don't say nowhere in the Bible about drinking coffee.
I grew up in the same church, one snake shy of salvation most of my life, and I think that my folks at Ebenezer will approve of this one.
Yeah, there you go.
With no liquor in it.
That is great.
That's good for us, Baptist.
So my family's out there in Western North Carolina too. Of course, we're here in upper north Georgia, so right on the North Carolina border. But my family is mostly from Western North Carolina, and we have a winery out there. I was reading about the history of your family and kind of how you got inspired to do what you're doing with coffee. We have a winery out there, and I know your grandfather and your folks before you had the moonshine thing going on. That's kind of where the naming of your coffee comes from. So I think that's pretty kind of interesting how you've done that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about your family's wine. My wife Heidi Newfield, her family has a small vineyard up in Northern California, and grew up in that world. There's a lot of similarities. Yeah, Papa King used to make wine behind he and his father-in-law, my great-grandfather, B.T. Wright. Apparently, they used to make liquor behind the city incinerator in Hendersonville.
Right.
I've asked some of my family members, and they said, "No, I didn't know that about your grandpa." So they were pretty stealthy about it. But they found during the holidays at Christmas, they made one called the White Mule, appropriately named because it kicked like a mule.
Right.
And they found that when the local restaurants would throw out their citrus that was, kind of on the dark side, they would put that in their mash. And apparently that would up the alcohol content.
Wow. Well, here's the problem with this whole thing. My great-grandfather was a revenue officer, so here we are.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's kind of interesting how that all shook out. It depended on what side of the church and what side of the law you were on, and if you could get along with both of them, I think they did well.
Oh yeah,
there it is.
Ain't no doubt.
But yeah, so about the winery thing, and to tie in back to what you're doing with the coffee, you were talking. I know that when people make coffee and make these boutique type coffees, they try to have a different flavor to them, a different kind of a spin on the standard coffee. And like you said, you're going to do that perhaps in some barrels and things, give it a little flavor. What types of things have you done to kind of make yours different than the rest of the pack?
Burn the beans.
Just how you burn them?
No, undercook them.
Undercook
No,
them?
I've got a guy named Mike Arnold, who's just a master roaster down in Coffee County, Tennessee, ironically. And I've been studied under him. I actually will still make my what's called profiles at home, and I don't do anything other than just, so far it's been straight flavored. I use a bean from India, which is real popular. Mm-hmm. It's just a heavier taste. Coffee has got the same kind of notes as wine does when you talk about the flavors. I don't like really acidic coffee, and so I haven't done like vanilla, soy fried, tangerine flavors.
No.
I just tend to do more straight up coffee.
Yep.
And I think the barrel aged will be it is my first venture into it, which is just to add a little bit of flavor to it without mucking up the beans.
I think it's going to be good. Now, I'm a coffee drinker, man. I bet I go through a pot in the morning, and actually you actually send me a bag, and then we've got some more of your coffee. It's really, really good. There's no doubt about it, but I like the straight flavored coffee. I don't like all the stuff in it, but
yeah.
And
I think if you could just roast a good coffee bean, I mean, it's cowboy. If it all goes back, you can call it French press or whatever, but just cowboy coffee, pouring water over grounds and cooking it over a stove. I mean, you can't get much better if you got some good coffee.
Oh, I'm with you, man. And like I said, that's the first thing when my feet hit the floor. I actually, at my house, I have a restaurant style coffee pot, one of the buns where you just pour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I got 2 pots at one time. So, I mean, that's how serious I am about it, but it's great. Now, this thing that you've got you were raised in Hendersonville, right?
Yes, sir.
So now, do you know a lot of people in Silva?
No, it's kind of interesting. The first time I ever had any music played on the radio, there was a guy named Bob Garland who still lives over here, and this is back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. He ran a station and invited me up here, and I had went to Nashville and cut 3 songs. One was a Keith Whitley demo, and one was a Kix Brooks song.
Right.
And I'm not looking for an occupation. I just want to go home. They're giving me anyway. I still remember it. And I had these demos, and I was so excited to be on the radio. And he played my songs, and we struck up a friendship. And 25 years later, I called him and said, "Bob, what are you up to?" And he said, "Well, I'm retired." And he said, "I've been following your career ever since we met." And he said, "I've got a scrapbook of your stuff." And I said, "Well, that's great, because I don't." So Bob is about the only person I knew over here. And what happened was Heidi and I came over here and played a thing called the Castle Sessions, which is up at Castle Lady Hall.
I remember that.
And that was how it all started. We met the folks at Bear Lake Reserve, fell in love with this community. I'm actually up here right now. And we've just been getting to know the folks. Now, my dad, he knows quite a few of some of the old timers and the hunters up here, but I'm just getting to know folks.
Yeah. Well, that's a great place, man. It's a great place. Do me a favor, if you got a minute, we got to take a short break, and then we're going to bring you back in about 3 minutes if you don't care, because I want to talk about the music you got. You got some stuff going on with that's pretty interesting. We're going to talk to y'all. Y'all go to mattking.com. You can check this out. He has got coffee that is outstanding, not to mention his music and all kinds of stuff. You can buy coffee cups and the whole 9 yards. So we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook, The Morning Dish. All righty, folks, back with us, and we have got the talented Matt King. Not only is he a heck of a musician, singer, songwriter, and the whole 9 yards, he's making coffee, baby. Coffee, I guarantee it. Let me ask you something, man. This Boone Songwriter Festival thing that's with the Guy Clark thing, what's the deal with that? Are you involved in that?
I got invited. Actually, I'll tell you how it happened. A buddy of mine named Charlie that lives down in Texas is a steel player.
Right.
And Charlie texted me and said, "Hey, have you heard of the Boone Songwriter Festival?" I said, "No, I don't get to play a whole lot in North Carolina." And he goes, "Well, I'm playing in the house band, and they're doing a tribute thing. They're going to do a Guy Clark tribute, and then there's I think it's the past festivals have had like Rodney Crowell, and this year it's Mary Gauthier and Radney Foster, and I'll think of their names in a minute. But anyway." So I said, no, but I'd love to play it. So he called the lady, Sherry Smith, who organizes the festival, which is called Antlers and Acorns, and said, "Do you know Matt King?" Hipped her up to the music. She loved it and invited me up there. And we've actually been staying in touch ever since. So Heidi's going to go with me. It's in September, and it's a stellar lineup. We're going to get to do our own show one night.
Oh, wow.
And then we're going to play on during the screening of the movie, the Guy Clark movie. We're going to do a couple of Guy Clark songs.
That's going to be awesome. Yeah.
It sounds like a wonderful time. Yeah, it's there's just a really cool lineup of folks. So we're both honored to be a part of it.
I'm hoping to come to that, and actually the tribute to Guy Clark, which is a new, I guess it's a documentary they got out without getting killed or caught. I've actually been in contact with them over the past couple of months, and they're going to come on the show when it gets a little closer. Some of the stuff that's going on with that.
Oh, good.
I'm a big Guy Clark fan. I guess anybody that's in the music is, but that had to be so much fun.
Yeah, and Bruce and Kelly are going to be there. Bruce Robinson. So
right.
That's what I was trying to remember. So yeah, and Guy, I had a buddy that co-wrote Hemingway's Whiskey with Guy.
Wow.
And so I told Sherry, I said, could I play that song and Texas Cooking, as far as my two songs? And
right.
She said, absolutely.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. But like I said, and then the Radney Foster, we've had him on here, but he's a great guy. Yeah.
So Matt,
I haven't been back to Boone. I basically stumbled my way through 1 year up at Boone back in the dark ages.
Right.
And I haven't been back since then. So this will be my first time. And I also, I grew up on Doc and Merle Watson, and this is my first time back, and I never got to go to Merle Fest or any of that stuff. So I'm hoping to do a little bit of bluegrass picking while I'm up there, just to honor those guys.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like bluegrass, but I kind of rode up around it. But I'm like, if you heard one bluegrass song, you heard them both. I'm sorry, but
I have a question about your stuff, Matt.
I didn't hear you. I think my camera went out.
There you go.
Hey, Matt. My question for you is this: I listened to your music, and it seems to be there's a theme in a lot of the songs. It's sort of like, I guess you would say, kind of like the downtrodden in Appalachia. This is the way it kind of comes across to me, as far as folks that have had a kind of a school of hard knocks, in their life here in the mountains. How did you? Would you first of all agree with that? I guess, and then how did you go about kind of picking that theme and choosing that to write your music?
That's a good question, Stephen. It does have that theme, and I'll tell you exactly when it happened. It was in 2002. I did my last record for Atlantic Records, and it hadn't hit. And I was listening to Buddy Miller's "Does My Ring Burn Your Finger?" It was off of a record called "Cruel Moon," and I was in an all-night coffee shop, ironically, and I remember sitting down and writing a song called "Eden's Apple," and I went, "Well, that's cool."
I love that song.
And I was trying to decide which way I was going to go, because I had a couple of albums, so you kind of get typecast. And I thought, well, what if it doesn't happen again on a commercial level? Is there anything I can do? And I heard Buddy's record, and I went, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
and I can do that for the next 30, 40 years, and it doesn't have an expiration date on it. So I started writing that music, and Cash, Johnny Cash was sort of my hero, because as far as country musicians, he always wrote about the misfits and the people that were marginalized in society. And I was a big proponent of, anybody that wants to get up and out of any kind of spiritual, mental, financial poverty, they can. And there's a lot of people in the mountains, they get characterized as hillbilly and all that kitschy stuff, and I don't approve. I don't like it. Right. And I read a book called All Over the Shouting by Rick Bragg, and he spoke the language of where you guys are at, Southern Appalachia, and our generation of people. And I went, what if I could put that in the music? And so I just started writing about some of my family's history, which some of it was dark. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of bad stuff, but then there was a lot of victory over that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have an agenda, because I knew that wasn't going to be like your latest radio hit, and it certainly isn't now. But it gave me kind of a voice. It kind of gave me a template for the music. So even though it is kind of heavy and dark, it's about people that are trying to get up and not leave their background. But if you guys know how it is in like Harlan County and Hazard County, where my family came from in Kentucky, there's a lot of poverty.
Yeah.
And it's not too different than the projects in the cities. If that's the only life that's the only life you know.
Yeah. And being from the South, though, in Southern Appalachia, everybody thinks you're an idiot. I don't know why. I mean, that's just what it comes across as, is just being an idiot. But, some of your songs, just like Graveyard Shift, you got that one line in there, a lifetime chiseled out in stone. I'm thinking it says, which, man, to me, that's
I love that song, by the way, Graveyard Shift. That's one of my favorites. And I like, it's interesting because on a lot of levels, it's a beautiful song, meaning the
spit it out,
just how it sounds, the choral aspect of it, and the instrumental aspect of it. It's a very pretty song, but then it's got this dark subject matter behind it. I'm listening to that, listening to other stuff. I think I would characterize you as, I just came up with this, and maybe somebody else has too, but like goth country. That's kind of the imagery of your music. That's what it feels like to me. Mm-hmm. But that particular song, this kind of that juxtaposition of having this very, very pretty song, beautiful sound to it, with this dark subject matter behind it. It's almost like Lana Del Rey or something, on the pop side of things.
Exactly, that's a great analogy. My 6 foot long, 6 foot deep, or lifetime carved in stone. Yeah, I lay them down to sleep. They don't have to be alone.
That is awesome, man. That's
poetry. Because even a dead man needs a little company.
Yeah, that's poetry.
There was a guy named Heavy Hudgens in Hendersonville. When I was a little boy, my other grandfather, Smokey Levi, had a barbershop. And Heavy used to come in there, and he was 400 pounds, if anything. He'd wear bibbed overalls and carried a stick like Moses. Walking stick, and he was a gravedigger,
right?
And had Coke bottle glasses, and there were all these characters. And I remember thinking about Heavy, what his life was like as a gravedigger. And it was a combination of a couple people. My grandfather King, when my grandmother passed away, they were driving down the road, and she sat right beside him. And on Sunday morning, they were going to a family reunion, and she said, "Fred, I just feel like the Lord's calling me home." And so this is literally what happened.
Right.
She looked at him when they were on their way home. She turned her head, and she was sitting in the middle of the seat, right back when you could do that in a truck.
Right.
And she looked at him, and she grinned, and she put her head on his shoulder and died.
Wow.
She had heart failure. And Papa pretty much grieved himself to death. He was an old timer. Mm-hmm. And so the story is sort of, I took artistic license and said, well, what if a guy has had a really long, good life, and he decides the only way he can be closer to his deceased wife is to go ahead and help people be a gravedigger.
Right.
And that way he could be at least in the same neighborhood before it's his turn to go.
Right.
So a lot of people thought it was about the Grim Reaper, but it wasn't. And it is kind of dark, but I'm glad you get the lighter side of it.
Oh, I do, man. I love it. I think it's cool.
It's a great song.
And the video, y'all need to go check out the video. It's awesome too, man. There ain't no doubt. And
let me tell you real quick about that. I was living in Austin part time and on the road, and we found a college kid, didn't have any budget. We did a video on it, and there was a guy that had I forget what model that car is. It's a 50s model.
Yeah, I think it's 57.
It's a 50. Okay, we should. His name was Take a Drink. And we said, what can we give you to use your car for the day? And literally, we had to buy him a what do you call the big quarts with the
Cord. Yeah.
in the bag? Well, that's what we bought him, was a couple of those. And he said, y'all take my car and enjoy it. And he sat and drank the beer, and we used his car in the video and shot that video on a shoestring budget.
Man, I know. And being a musician, that happens a lot with a shoestring budget. So, but no doubt about it. So, no, before we go, we got a couple of minutes. New music. What about new music? Are you working on stuff now?
I was working on a new record, and it kind of got stalled. When the quarantine happened, because I have a face made for radio, thank you very much.
I think you look good, man. Not as good as Steve over here, but.
No, not nearly as good as Steve. But he's really pretty, man.
He is, ain't he?
Yeah, he is. But I tell you, I started doing this coffee and ended up using it for merchandise, just to kind of get something out there, keep my name out there with my own fans. And this thing is starting to get pretty busy. So I've put a stall on it. The last song I did was the start of the record I was doing was with Wally Hubbard and Heidi. And I told you guys about it. So right now that's on hold. I'm finishing a record on a lady named Helene Cronin. She's a songwriter from Texas. Her Helene Cronin, Cronin. She is a songwriter that's been coming to Nashville for about 15 years. But all she's ever wanted is a hit. And what she's done is written about 500 songs. And we've culled them out and did her second record. And it's amazing.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. I love your stuff. I love your style.
Well, her first record that I did with her is called Old Ghosts and Lost Causes, if you want to check it out.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'm working with Heidi when she goes on the road. She's in the process of doing a new record. Her last record she released during the quarantine, so she's still pushing that, called Barfly Sessions, Volume 1. And I'm in Coffee World for about 6 months. So I'd like to make something up and say that I'm really busy musically, but I'm making coffee for a minute.
Well, that's where the money's at right now, I guarantee you, because right now the music business is upside down. But y'all go to mattking.com and check him out. Check out his coffee. You can order everything right online, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And Matt, I sure do appreciate you taking your time. I've been trying to get you on. I know you're busy because every time you're like, oh, I got to be here, got to be there. But I appreciate you doing it this morning. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, and we will definitely keep up with y'all. We're talking to Matt King. Go to mattking.com, and I'm going to tell you, y'all going to be a fan too. And we got to get to another break. And like I said, Matt, take care. If we can ever help you, man, just shoot me an email.
Thanks, guys. And I'll keep you in coffee as best I can.
There you go.
Thanks, Matt. We'll see you.
All right, take care.
Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Thank you for spending a little time with us. And remember, you can tune in every morning at WJULradio.com at 8 a.m. Eastern. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook, The Morning Dish.